Hello everyone and welcome to Motorcast. We're here to talk about a bit of breaking news in the world of Formula 1. It's the worst kept secret of 2017, of course. It is Valtteri Bottas, and he is moving to Mercedes to replace Nico Rosberg, of course, the outgoing world champion. We've got Felipe Massa as well, returning to Williams. And also, of course, we've got Pascal Wehrlein, who's unfortunately had to settle for a Sauber seat in the end, despite there being, of course, the best driver in Formula 1 being on the table. Unfortunately, it was not open to him, and he's ended up at Sauber. But we're going to be talking about all of that and much, much more on this episode on Motorcast. Let's get straight into it then, and let's talk to our guest, Toby, Alex, and Matty.
Hello.
We don't need to do introductions, so you guys know who they are. I mean, even though Alex hasn't actually been on an episode,
even though
we just need to go on.
It is Alex's debut episode.
Yeah,
it is,
so
maybe. But you all know who he is.
Hopefully, most people know me off Twitter.
You're probably no strangers to him.
Let's talk about Mercedes then, and let's just cut straight to the chase, Alex. You can go first. You're the debutant. What do you think of the whole Bottas to Mercedes deal?
I do rate Bottas as a very good driver. Obviously, I don't think the situations are ideal for Mercedes. I think they were planning, obviously, to have Hamilton and Rosberg. I think they've had to kind of rush this decision, and I'm surprised they didn't go for Pascal Wehrlein because he's their young driver. He's German, obviously, and I thought they would have liked a German driver in there. But with it's understandable considering he's only got the experience from Manor. Could have gone with Alonso or Vettel, but perhaps that would have caused a bit of conflict with Lewis Hamilton. So I can see why they've gone for Bottas, and I don't think we should underrate him. I think he showed particularly in 2014 that he is a very big talent, and I don't think he'll beat Hamilton, but I think even in the first season, I think he'll give him a run for his money in most races.
Toby, do you think Bottas can beat Hamilton?
Yeah, like Alex says, really, you can give him a run for his money, but I think there's a definite driver 1 and driver 2 situation at Mercedes, because obviously of Hamilton's previous successes. But I just want to wish good luck to Bottas. He's been at Williams for 4 years, and he's been waiting for his big break, really. So fair play to him, and I hope he does really well.
Matty, do you think Bottas was the right choice of all the available options?
I think if they'd signed him a couple of years ago, it would have seemed... I mean, obviously it would have been a shot out of the dark, because you would have been kicking Rosberg or Hamilton out of a seat, but that was when Bottas really kind of shone. I mean, the last couple of years, the Williams car really hasn't been on top form, but I honestly probably would have went with Wehrlein, but then again, I'm the kind of person who likes seeing like a kind of left field driver going in like a big car and seeing what they can do. Like I'm the kind of person who looked at Sergio Perez in 2013 and the McLaren was like, yes, that seems like a good matchup. So So
we'll just completely ignore you, basically. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah. But yeah, with Bottas, I think he's pretty underrated, to be honest. I feel like you said, the car's got worse over the past couple of years, and I think he hasn't actually got any worse, but people are just presuming he has because of how bad the car has got. But he outqualified Massa, I think 17-4 over the last couple of seasons. I think over last year, of course. I think in a competitive car, though, Bottas could be very, very good, particularly on a Saturday. And qualifying is crucial as well in the current era of Formula 1. So I think it could put him in pretty good stead for those races. What do you think, Toby? Do you think in qualifying or in the race, where's the biggest challenge to Hamilton going to come from Bottas?
Well, it's the same old story, really, with F1. You look at Hamilton and Rosberg, in their 3 years of dominance, they only really had one really good battle, which was Bahrain 2014. In qualifying, maybe he can put up a challenge, but I think Hamilton's biggest strength is one-lap pace. And I hope Bottas can challenge him in the races, but it's just the same old story with Formula 1 at the moment. If Hamilton can get away at the start, then Hamilton will probably win, but if Bottas can get a better start, then maybe Bottas can win a few races, but it's just really tough to predict.
Alex, what do you think? Do you think Bottas has the mental strength and the kind of capabilities to race wheel to wheel to beat Hamilton?
Yeah, I think one of the comparisons that people have drawn up since this whole Bottas situation came about is with Wehrlein at McLaren when he came and partnered Hamilton there. To be honest, I hope Bottas can do better, and I think he definitely can. I don't think he'll have the one-lap pace, but we've seen before when Rosberg was there, Hamilton kind of sometimes had the better of him in all 3 practice sessions, all 3 qualifying sessions, but then it comes to the race, all it would need is a bad start of Hamilton and Rosberg get into the lead. and control the race. We saw that quite a few times, particularly last year. So I think there's opportunities for Bottas to maybe exploit the starts that Hamilton might get. And you never know, I think he can win races, certainly. Maybe not the championship, but I think he can definitely pose a threat to Hamilton.
Matty, final question on Mercedes and Bottas. With Bottas and Hamilton, that kind of driver pairing, where does that rank amongst our kind of current driver pairings that we have? Of course, Verstappen and Ricciardo at Red Bull, for example, and Vettel and Raikkonen at Ferrari. Where do you think it sits between those two?
Honestly, I think Red Bull have got the strongest driver pairing, but I think Mercedes have got the strongest driver, and this is going to be controversial to some people, but Hamilton, considering he's been there or thereabouts in the championship last few years, you can't really say that he's not a good driver, because obviously he's in the best car. As a driver pairing, I guess, there has been a bit of friction between Bottas and Massa in the past, so I guess we can draw a little bit from that. Although that was pretty much just down to kind of midfield battles. It wasn't really battling for the lead or anything. In terms of Bottas's mental strength, which you kind of talked about before, I don't think you'll have any problem with that. I mean, he's a Finn, and all Finns, when it comes to racing, they're pretty level-headed, aren't they? So I think he'll be fine. Will he be as quick? I'm not sure.
I think Bottas is pretty cool as well, isn't he, in terms of he doesn't make many mistakes. He brings the car home.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
He's not a win or bin driver. I think with Wehrlein, you would get occasional crashes, occasional lapses. We may get a bit lost in the wet, like he did in Brazil. So yeah, I think Bottas is, in my opinion, the best choice. Although, of course, had it been a free market, had Rosberg actually helped the team by actually announcing his retirement before the end of the season, then maybe they could have got someone slightly better. But I think still Bottas is a good choice, and good for F1 to have someone else in the top team.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about Williams. Felipe Massa announced his retirement, and then just a really weird story. I don't really need to explain it, because of course I think everyone knows by now. But Massa, of course, being confirmed to come back for 2017 alongside Lance Stroll. Alex, what do you make of all this? I mean, Massa coming back.
Well, I think it makes the whole situation, the Brazil race last year, obviously the emotional farewell, that sort of thing, it makes that look pretty stupid now. And you wonder what's going to happen this year when it gets to Brazil. Is the same thing going to happen again? Is he going to get the same sort of farewell? I think, he was already, it's pretty obvious, he was past his best. I think I saw a stat that he was something like an average of 0.3 off Bottas in qualifying last year. And obviously we know how good a driver he was in his Ferrari days before his crash. But I don't really see the point in him coming back, to be honest. I mean, I do like him, but I just don't see what he'll bring to the team apart from experience next year. I mean, he could be a good mentor for Stroll, obviously, who, as I think I rate quite highly. But even though he could be a good mentor for him, I just feel like he could do that job maybe as a part of the team without being a driver, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, that was one thing I was thinking, actually. We've heard about Jenson Button being a kind of ambassador for McLaren. It's a bit of a shame Massa couldn't just do the same. But Toby, do you think there was anyone better on offer, considering Martini's kind of has to be 25 or over rule?
I mean, I'd just like to say beforehand, I really hope this doesn't backfire on Massa. I mean, I know it's not the same situation. He's certainly not at the same level as Schumacher. But you look, when Schumacher came back in 2010, Rosberg beat him. Now, I know you raid Stroll, Alex, and I don't know about Stroll just yet, but if Stroll beats Massa by a long way, does that diminish his career slightly in the fact that he got whooped in his last season? And I think he's definitely past his best, and he should have gone last season. But I can kind of see why he's came back, but in another way, he should have just gone after last year. But other competitors for that seat, obviously Wehrlein was too young. Paul di Resta could have been an off-chance choice, but also hasn't been in F1 for a long time. Maybe in terms of other drivers, I'm just trying to think.
I mean, apart from the obvious Adrian Sutil, I think the main option was, I think obviously Wehrlein. They had their hands completely tied really when they kind of Mercedes took away their big star. Felipe Massa was mentioned, Esteban Gutierrez, but there was no kind of standout name. So,
I mean, you could have had Jenson Button, but then you just have a similar situation to Massa, wouldn't you?
Yeah, pretty much. Matty, what do you make of all this?
I mean, frankly, Massa should have just stayed, because, like you said, it makes the whole Brazil thing look like a complete farce. You go through all the effort of getting like clapped down the pit lane by all the teams, and then you don't retire. Like, I think he probably didn't want to come back, I'm gonna guess, but Williams, like you said, didn't have anywhere else to turn really, and with the Martini thing, it meant that they couldn't have Wehrlein. It meant they couldn't have like even like Ocon, or I know he was announced a little bit earlier, but it's kind of I doubt Massa really saw. Well, obviously didn't he? He decided to retire, but my head just can't really get around this. I feel like it's a bit of a mess.
Massa was kind of pushed out, I think, last year. Williams kind of turned around and said, well, we've got Stroll coming in next year, we don't have a seat for you, and politely announced your retirement. And I think he was talking to other teams, to be fair. I think he hasn't checked out Formula 1, but was kind of forced to last year, and now has got this lease of life, you could say, but it's just 1 year.
At the same time, it did seem like the perfect time for him to hang up his boots,
definitely, though. Yeah, definitely.
Well, he clearly made a decision, because, I mean, he decided to retire in Italy, so and you don't call a retirement that early if you're not sure about it.
Yeah, very true. I mean, maybe the new cars will play into the favour of the experienced guys, but I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it's going to just give as equal opportunity to the young guys to bring a surprise, I think.
Well, I totally agree with you, because when you look back at the 2014 season, they were saying the same sort of things. You know, the experienced drivers may have the upper hand, and then we saw drivers like Raikkonen completely struggle with the new cars.
Yeah, and Ricciardo beat Vettel, so
yeah, exactly.
I think everything's pretty off the table for next year. So it could happen with Bottas and Hamilton as well. Maybe we'll see history repeating itself, or maybe we'll see a Kovalainen situation. We'll have to see.
I hope not a Kovalainen situation.
I doubt that. But to be fair, Kovalainen was very promising in 2007 with Renault, but I think it is a slightly different circumstances, and I think Bottas is, obviously a good choice. Like we mentioned, Massa, probably not so. Talking of good choices, I think from Sauber's perspective, they've really landed on their feet, because they've got Marcus Ericsson and Pascal Wehrlein for next year. That's a pretty solid lineup from their perspective, Matty.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, with the Wehrlein kind of fallout of him being linked to a Mercedes drive, and then looking at a point that he wouldn't even get a drive at all, he's lucky to be in the Sauber seat. But what a driver Sauber have managed to recruit with him. I mean, I don't know what's happening with like the Mercedes possibly funding the seat a little bit. I'd suspect they probably are a little bit, with them being in their like books. But I think the driver partnership Sauber had was starting to get a bit stale, because Nasser and Ericsson never really seemed to gel. They took themselves out more than they scored points. And there was the funny thing, obviously, in Brazil, where Nasser scoring points effectively got rid of his own race seat. So I think Sauber, they'll do okay, but they'll still be at the back though, and it's sort of like a career sidestep for Wehrlein, where it looked like he was going to be shooting straight up at the top, which I think is a bit. I think he'll not exactly be very happy with that, but again, he'll probably feel lucky to still have a seat.
Alex, what do you think? Do you think Wehrlein deserves better than a Sauber seat?
Yeah, I think Sauber have got a very, very good lineup. Obviously, from Wehrlein's point of view, it's not ideal for him. I wouldn't have thought going into the end of 2016, I wouldn't have thought he'd be looking at Sauber as the seat he wanted, especially after the Rosberg news, but he didn't really have much choice. It was kind of the last seat available, and I think Wehrlein not being in F1 after all that's happened would have been a bit of a joke, really. So yeah, I think Sauber will suit him well for now, and hopefully he could maybe progress up the grid as long as the Sauber car is good enough to give him an opportunity. As for Ericsson, I do actually rate Ericsson quite highly. I think he's a little bit underrated. I did always think he was better than Nasser, to be honest. He put in a few good drives, especially last year. He really seemed to mature. There was, I think, that Mexico race which stood out for me, where he got spun around on the first lap, and he eventually finished 11th, I think it was. Bearing in mind all the top 10 were the top 5 cars that all finished without any problems. Yeah, he finished 11th quite comfortably in that race. I think that was the race for me where he really matured as a driver, and hopefully him and Wehrlein can do well for Sauber next year, or this year even.
Yeah, I completely agree. Ericsson, I think, put in some really good performances. Like, so that Mexico performance where he effectively did a no stop, because I don't believe he stopped after he stopped for damage on the opening lap. I think really proved how much Ericsson has grown, because I think he's probably one of the most improved drivers over the last few years. Toby, final question on Sauber. Do you think, I mean, what are they going to do next year? Because, of course, Manor are pretty much, dead in the water. I mean, we'll have to see if they're coming back. We'll talk about them in a minute. But, what does Sauber do from now? Are they pretty much destined to finish 10th, or do you think they could challenge the likes of Haas? And that's pretty much it.
Well, just a quick note on Wehrlein before I answer your question. I do feel really sorry for him, because it's purely a case of wrong place, wrong time. Really, if we hadn't had the silly Williams thing where an over 25 driver must go there, and we have other situations that have occurred, he'd have a higher seat. And I do feel sorry for him. He's had a little bit of bad press about being a bit of a spoilt brat. I think that all came about in the USA practice when he said he didn't want to stop the car, and I think that's a real shame for him to have bad press about that, because actually I see him as a young driver, a really mature person, and somebody who gives a really good interview. But no, Marcus Ericsson, like Josh said, I quite rate Ericsson highly, purely because of the fact that a lot of people rated Felipe Massa really highly, especially as the Williams reserve driver. And for Ericsson to be on par with him means that he can't be a bad driver at all. But Sauber, obviously, we're having the 2016 engine rather than the 2017 engine. They're going to be quite a way off, I think. I think unless Manor survive, they're definitely going to be last in the constructors, because unless somebody like Toro Rosso, Renault or Haas have a really bad season, they're going to almost be like Manor in 2015, I feel, and be at the back by themselves.
Bold prediction. I'm pretty faithful for them, to be honest, because they've got a lot of new era people. They're really concentrating on the aerodynamics, and I think, although it is an engine formula, I think it's pretty.
For those of you who don't know what's going on now, Toby is shouting in the background at someone. Oh my god.
For me, next year, I think, Sauber are going to be pretty decent, actually. I think, they've really been focusing on the aerodynamics. They've brought in a lot of people. The former Audi kind of aerodynamicist has come in, and he's just one of many that have joined the team. And Bruce Bruscom, of course, as well, the chief strategist, who engineered, of course, Ericsson to his 11th in Mexico and Nasser to his points in Brazil, and of course Grosjean's very, very good results in Australia and Bahrain. So I think, that they've got a bit of potential, even if they do have a bad 2017. I think when they do get a current engine in 2018, they have a pretty good future, especially if they're going to be becoming a bit of a Honda B team. I think that there is potential for them to get back into the midfield.
Well, you see, I mean, last year we had Toro Rosso running a 1-year-old engine, and they seemed to do okay. I mean,
exactly,
obviously the car was pretty well designed. So by having a 1-year-old engine doesn't completely rule the team out of the running, but it's just
but you have to say that Toro Rosso were half decent anyway. Sauber at the back of the group anyway. And having a year-old engine would push them back even more.
But you would hope that they get upgrades at least next year, because I think they had one upgrade this year.
Yeah.
But if they don't get any upgrades, then like you said, they are probably going to be, I think, not as bad as Manor in 2015. I'm not sure if that's possible, but I think
I think that would be incredibly unfortunate for them if they were in that position.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk a bit about Manor just to round off the video. Is there any hope for Manor, Alex?
I hope so. Obviously, it's hard to tell what's going on behind the scenes there, but there was a bit of positive news the other day when I think, I didn't see the whole story on it, but I think there is a possibility of them getting some backing for next year, but we don't know anything about the drivers. We don't really know anything about, well, I would imagine the car is not being developed as they'd hope, considering the staff haven't yet been paid, I think I'm right in saying.
I think they've been paid up to December. So
there's not really much news on it really since the administration. The only thing I've heard since they've gone into administration, the fact they've kept the staff on, so that might be a
I think they've probably kept developing the car, because I mean, why wouldn't you in this situation? You've got to at least keep going until it's, doors closed. That's it. It's done. Like,
must be tough though.
Man has always been there. Yeah,
they can't. It must be tough for them to develop the car when they can hardly even pay the staff though. So. If they are on the grid next year, I have a feeling it might be a bit like 2015 again. As I was saying, we don't know the drivers. Maybe Harry Anto could come back and give them some backing, possibly.
Well, they'll need like 2 paid drivers, won't they?
Yeah, I mean,
So
I'm pretty sure that Harry Hunter said I'm pretty sure Harry Hunter said he definitely isn't driving next year.
Yeah, he did, but
yeah.
maybe things will change. I mean,
Promises are made to be broken. I mean, look at Massa.
I'd like to see them on the
Exactly,
grid, but we've seen they only just survived this year. I think 2015 they were pretty hopeless really. 2014 sadly they went into administration I think at the end. So even if they are on the grid, it'll be tough for them to survive the whole season I think.
and from an investor standpoint, I mean, what's the point in investing in Manor? It's just literally a money hole that you might as well just burn your money really. So, but of course we all hope that they do get onto the grid. I think that's pretty much it though for this episode of the podcast, unless you guys have anything more to add.
Well, the only thing I'd say is let's hope the driver lineup's Roberto Merri and Pastor Maldonado. That'd be fantastic.
Could be a couple of paid drivers. Could be some paid drivers. Really.
I think.
yeah, I mean they could get their hands on Nazar. He's of course got quite a bit of backing.
And Gutierrez.
True.
Oh no, he's gone to Formula E, of course.
No, I think might pull some strings, cancel a contract here or there. You never know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, for a driver of Esteban Gutierrez's ability, it's pretty good. You want to break those multi-million-pound contracts. It's worth it for him.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get Sutilla and Nasser then in the end. We'll have to see if he retires from being a full-time fashion model. But yeah,
we can all dream, can't we?
exactly. We can all dream. He'll live on forever.
Maybe Sutil will set up his own F1 team.
Probably. He'll probably buy Manor. I mean, Manor have had a buyout offer, apparently, but today, that's come out
By Adrian Sutil, there you go.
There we go. There is a bit of exclusive from Motorcast. For more exclusives, awful opinions, and brilliant podcasts, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and, of course, our Twitter, which will be down into the description below. As well, all of our personal Twitters as well. Be sure to follow us on there, and possibly even YouTube's as well if we are feeling particularly generous, and if you're feeling particularly excited to find new content. Then, of course, go down to the description below. Until next time, we will hope that you all have a brilliant week, month, and, of course, 2017. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. Thank you all so much for coming on. Thank you all so much for listening.
Yep.
And Toby can now go and do some karting. Goodbye.
Yeah, au revoir.